I'm Elaine Midgley and I'm the Director of Bedford Creative Arts. I think we felt that this was one of those hidden histories for Bedford, where the Cardington sheds themselves loom very much on the skyline as you approach, and anyone who's driven past them or been a resident here will have known them. But now, 90 years on from that Imperial Airship programme, and those sheds now being used as movie studios, there's a danger actually that people are going to forget what they were there for originally, particularly with new residents. There's a lot of new housing in the area, and children and young people who just don't know anything about that airship heritage. But for us, it represents a symbol of Bedford's innovation history, its sense of endeavour, of a strong aviation heritage that we think it should be celebrating. So yeah, it felt now at the 90th anniversary a good time to capture memory, to get people excited, and particularly think about how we might build towards a centenary in 10 years' time. At its heart, we have a 6-month-long exhibition in the Higgins, which is in 2 parts. So on the one hand, we wanted to invite the community to share their airship stories with us, to show us the artefacts they had in their lofts and in their homes, and to talk about both memories but also ambitions and ideas for aviation future. And so what we want to do is to do an exhibition in the Connections Gallery in the Higgins that will share those memories from those people. But across the way from that gallery is the William Harper space, which is a beautiful gallery space that Mike Stubbs is going to use in order to provide his contemporary artistic response to what the community provides. So you'll get elements of something very contemporary, very alternative, exploring both past and present, and then you'll get this marrying of that with what the community share with us on the other side. Alongside that, we are going to be doing an outdoor event to celebrate things in style with something on the Castle Mound area. And we really want that to be a multi-installation piece that will give people an opportunity to explore different sorts of artistic installations that explore all of that heritage material. So that will be a big celebration. And then alongside that, we've also got an education programme. So we're working closely with Shortstown Primary School, obviously in that particular area relevant to Bedford's heritage in this context, but also with other children from Bedford College, from Mark Rutherford School, and we're inviting all families who are local to Bedford to engage in a process of learning more about airships and having a go at sharing their ideas as well. The Higgins is a fantastic museum that underwent a brilliant refurbishment and is full of all kinds of interesting artefacts, but also looks at art as well as heritage. And they've been working with us on a number of projects over a few years because we've been learning from each other. As an organisation ourselves that looks at placemaking, looks at people and communities, heritage is often a way into having a conversation with the community and talking about an issue and exploring that with people. And that's where we can learn a lot from the Higgins. But one of the things that they struggle with being a small organisation themselves and being closely connected to their physical building is actually getting out into the community and finding ways to engage with people. And so they've been learning from us different tools and techniques for exploring things in perhaps more contemporary ways and more practical ways in the community. So I think there's enormous benefit to both of us from learning those things, as well as the fact that we work peripatetically, as in we don't really have a building, we are always out in the community. So the opportunity to use a venue like theirs when they need it and bring this massive contemporary art installation, which I believe will be the first in the William Harper space, will be a great first for all of us, and jointly really bring about something that I think will make Bedford residents really proud. I'm really interested to explore how people respond to us using contemporary art as a way to explore the heritage. I can't think of too many examples of where it's been done to quite this extent, and even marrying the funding partners of the National Lottery Heritage Fund with the Arts Council in a project is really interesting in of itself. I think part of the reason for that is because of the generations involved. The Higgins did a fantastic exhibition for the 80th anniversary, which was quite a traditional heritage exhibition looking at the story of the R101 in particular. And that was very popular and well attended, but it was more popular with people of older generations who, had a reason to already connect with that heritage. Whereas our hope is that through the contemporary art, we will attract younger generations, young adults, particularly people who come from backgrounds where they perhaps wouldn't expect to enjoy the heritage, to actually consider this and reflect on it. And we may be able to get a very broad cross-section of the community as our audience. We genuinely sort of don't know what to expect from people's reactions, and that's the thing that makes this quite exciting and maybe a bit innovative. My hope will be that they will maybe think about the subject matter in a way that they wouldn't if they only reflected on it from a traditional heritage place. I think I would expect them, if it was a traditional heritage-based exhibition, to come out and say things like, I learned something that I didn't know before, or you know, I was moved by the sorts of things I looked at, and maybe it made me feel proud of Bedford. Whereas I think something like what Mike's doing will actually perhaps instill a more passionate response, maybe positive, maybe negative, but I think it will be a stronger, perhaps emotional response to things, and maybe actually fire up their imagination in ways that just reflecting on the past wouldn't. So actually making them think more about the future, think about what it is that they like or dislike about the artwork, and how maybe it made them put themselves into the frame of Bedford and its relationship with airship heritage. One of our ultimate aims for this project is to understand what people's desire would be for us to continue to explore this heritage. So do they want Bedford to become a town where, as you drive in, it says Bedford is home of the airship? Do they want that to be something that the whole world knows about? Is that something that we feel the community has a right to have celebrated here? And I think hopefully through quite a powerfully emotive response, something that's very visceral and immersive, such as the installation we're going to be doing, that we might be able to tease out whether people are interested in that or not. Obviously we started with Mike Stubbs as lead artist, who was invited to do the R&D, and then we had a number of ways of considering how we would engage the rest of the artistic team. So we had a choice between inviting specific artists that we would want to work with on the project or doing an open call, and in the end what we did was choose both. So people like Dave Lynch, who's a fantastic projection specialist, has been invited because he's previously collaborated with Mike, although not on anything quite of this scale. Mike's been a mentor to Dave and actually helped him develop his practice. So it's an opportunity for Dave to really get to work with his friend and mentor on something ambitious and demonstrate those skills. But we did an open call out for the artists we wanted to develop the soundscape for this project. And the result of that was we ended up hiring 3 people instead of 1 because the call out was so strong. And what we discovered through that is that there was an opportunity to do a very big and broad collaboration. So we have artists like Roger, who's local, who has local community connections, who has an experience of a broad range of instrumental skills, but also choral skills, has previously worked with us before, so a bit of a relationship there. And he brings something very different from Rob and Sam from the Hive Collective, who actually have very strong audiovisual skills at bringing about something abstract and contemporary into the setting where we are using things like projection. And then we've got artists like Richard England, who's a VR specialist, who's worked in a range of different virtual reality settings, very unlike ours, including gaming and commercial settings, but will actually be able to advise us on how we deliver this in a virtual environment, which is quite new to us as an organisation. So the other thing we did was consider how we were going to reach communities, bearing in mind we were restricted by COVID-19 and lockdown in the early stages. So we actually decided to work with people we hadn't thought we would, including Anton Hecht, who's a digital artist and very experienced at using online mediums to reach audiences, and Sita Thomas, who is a TV presenter and actress. And so they have very different skills and ways of engaging with the community, and what we've been doing with them is producing films, short videos and things that we can put out online in order to engage people of a variety of different generations in the community engagement aspects of these projects during a time when we're not yet able to get to them physically. The project has a much stronger evolution than I think first we thought. I had anticipated from the period when we sought the funding to actually delivering the project originally planned for October 2020, that it would be all hands on deck and we would very quickly refine our ideas that we put in our funding applications and just focus on a tight timescale of delivery. And in actual fact, because the project has had to be delayed by nearly a year into 2021 in terms of the exhibition, and then we've had to consider whether there are risks associated with the way we had originally planned to deliver our exhibition and the way we had originally planned to do community engagement of inviting potentially vulnerable people in our community, people who were over the age of 70, to engage. We have had to reflect in the end on almost everything, if I'm honest. So we've completely reconsidered how we do the community engagement, but I think some of that is to the better because we've considered much more inventive ways of engaging with schools and children and young people digitally than we would have done perhaps otherwise. And we've also engaged with people on a more national basis through some of our online work that we weren't necessarily expecting to and reach people outside of Bedford. We have obviously had to put the dates of the exhibition back, but some of that has remained fairly the same. But there are some interesting questions coming out about how we change the nature of the outdoor event, just in case we need to further consider the impact of COVID. But all of that has given us a bit of breathing space that we perhaps otherwise wouldn't have had to dream to, in some ways, be more ambitious and more creative than we would have done before. The nature of a project like this is it's a little bit like a snowball that rolls and gathers and gets bigger as it goes. And what we've noticed is that we've started to make a range of different connections with other people. So people in the world of academia who are writing books on the subject, other production companies who are exploring similar areas of heritage. And we've also started to create a work which perhaps has more touring potential than we thought we might have before. So we're currently exploring what we could tour and actually looking for partners to collaborate with us on recommissioning the piece to extend its life beyond that. We're also following up on all of the leads that we develop with people in the community, with some of these people who are approaching us with ideas that they've got, to see if there might be a run of smaller projects that might come out of it that continue on the same theme. But I think, being really ambitious, it could be that we look towards a major artwork or heritage work in 2030 that commemorates that 100th anniversary and maybe does finally really put Bedford on the map as home of the airship.